Herzlich willkommen zur heutigen Festveranstaltung des Hayek Lifetime Achievement Awards hier im Loshaus Wien. Wir haben eine Riesenfreude, dass er hier ist. Er ist der Träger der diesjährigen Hayek Lifetime Achievement Award Auszeichnung. Begrüßen Sie mit mir Herrn Professor Dr. Arthur Laffer. Herzlich willkommen. A warm welcome as well to the international group of close friends of Mr. Laffer, who came to Vienna to join us at the celebration ceremony for Arthur Laffer tonight.
And thank you again for joining us and for honoring one of the most charming economists that is around, who always says the toughest things with a smile. Thank you for doing that.
The Hayek Lifetime Achievement Award was granted to Dr. Laffer for making supply-side economics a constant in modern economic thinking and public policy, and for his continuous contributions to reducing the tax burden for individuals and enterprises. And let me tell you, and especially you, Dr. Laffer, how it influenced me. I spent 8 years in position of Deputy Prime Minister responsible for economic affairs, and 4 years in this 8 years period also as Finance Minister. And final result was that both of these taxes, personal income tax and corporate income tax, was reduced on 19%. And at the same time, we had more tax revenues from these 19% as before from much, much higher tax rate, which means I can say that it is not only theory, but in practical life, we proved that this theory works. And let me conclude by one of Dr. Laffer's quotation. It is not true that Congress spends money like a drunken sailor. Drunken sailors spend their own money. Congress spends our money. Thank you.
It's a great pleasure in the name of the Austrian Economics Institute to award the Hayek Lifetime Achievement Award to you, Arthur Laffer, for your economic inspiration, which gave you to us. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
What I did when I was in Slovakia, in my comments there, if I can, is economics has a lot to do with politics as well. And competition is not just something that applies to businesses or labor or employment or these other things. Competition also applies to governments. And one of the things that has bothered me enormously about Europe is the huge conglomeration and the monopolization of governments inside this wonderful continent of yours. You know, my view has always been that when politicians collaborate and work together and cooperate, they always do it at the expense of the electorate. I really think it's a mistake for the European Union to join together politically in all of this, that it's really much better if you use the US model where you have governments competing with each other rather than cooperating with each other. You get very different results. Now, free trade. There's no reason why you can't have complete free trade and still have intense competition amongst the governments of the country. Redistribution is economics, and it's math. It works for all people, tall, short, fat, skinny, male, female, left wing, right wing. It's economics and it's math. Let me go through it with you for a second. You take from someone who has more, and you give to someone who has less. If you look at that, the person who had more, who has this taken from them, now has their incentives to produce reduced, and they will produce less. The person who has less, who was given the benefit, all of a sudden finds he or she has an alternative source of income other than working, and that person too will produce less. The theorem here is very explicit. Whenever you redistribute income, you reduce total income, period. This is not ideology, this is not politics, this is math. I am a super optimist. what was it, Ronald Reagan always said he was the most optimistic man in the world. Someone gave him a big bag of horse manure, and he spent the day looking for the pony. So I am optimistic in that same sense. But if you look at the world today, we have seen a huge change in politics. And when you see a huge change in politics of this order, let me just say that there is a new day coming. The political world is changing dramatically. From my standpoint, I couldn't be more optimistic than I am today. If Ronald Reagan had been elected in 1976, you would have seen a very, very different Ronald Reagan. You would have seen a much different one and a much less attractive one. It took Jimmy Carter to create Ronald Reagan. And in the same breath that it took Jimmy Carter to create Ronald Reagan, you can't imagine the great president that is going to follow Barack Obama. Thank you very much, Barbara. Thank you.